Today, we're diving into a weapon that, frankly, sounds like something straight out of science fiction. It's a weapon many experts thought was literally impossible to build. I'm talking about Russia's Burevestnik missile, or as NATO calls it, Skyfall. And get this, it's a nuclear-powered cruise missile. Yeah, you heard that right. And it might just be about to rewrite the entire rulebook of modern warfare.
You know, the story of this weapon really starts with that simple idea. It all kicked off with a pretty tense back and forth between world leaders. A threat was made, and the response was, well, a shocking return gift that sent ripples all across the globe.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the political drama that kicked this whole thing off. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what the Skyfall missile actually is. We'll talk about its frankly insane, unlimited range, why it's basically impossible to stop, and what that means for, well, for everyone. And finally, we'll see if this thing's actually ready to go.
So how did we even get to this point? Well, believe it or not, it all started with a threat that involves some pretty old-school missile technology. So on one side, you have the US floating the idea of sending 35-year-old Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. And on the other side, Putin's response wasn't just words. It was the announcement of a successful test of something brand new, something that just totally shocked the global military community.
So what exactly is this thing? Because it's not just an upgrade, it's a whole new class of weapon.
And here is the absolute key. It is a cruise missile that is powered by its own miniature nuclear reactor, right there on board. For years, the engineering challenge of shrinking a nuclear reactor down to a size that could fit inside a missile, well, it was considered pretty much impossible. But Russia is now claiming they've cracked the code.
So let's just break down what we're looking at here. Its Russian name, Burevestnik, means storm petrel. It's a bird. NATO, though, gave it the much more ominous code name Skyfall, but the real headline here is the power source. A nuclear fission reactor. And yes, it is also nuclear capable, meaning it can carry a nuclear warhead.
So why is being nuclear-powered such a huge deal? Well, it doesn't just change the concept of missile range, it completely shatters it.
I mean, this chart really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? Look at a conventional missile like a Tomahawk. It runs on chemical fuel, it's got a few hours in the air, tops. But Burevestnik, it's playing a totally different ballgame. With that nuclear reactor on board, its range is, for all intents and purposes, unlimited. It literally never has to stop for gas. This thing could circle the planet for days, maybe even weeks, before it decides to hit its target. Just think about that.
And this isn't just a theory on a whiteboard somewhere. We're told that during a recent test, this missile flew for 15 hours straight. It covered over 14,000 kilometers, all powered by that nuclear propulsion system.
Okay, so you have this incredible, almost infinite range. But that's not all. It's also paired with features that make it an absolute nightmare for anyone trying to defend against it.
This thing is designed from the ground up to be a ghost. First, because its range is unlimited, it can attack from literally any direction. I mean, it could fly over the South Pole if it wanted to, completely avoiding most defense networks. Second, it's a terrain hugger. It flies incredibly low, just meters above the ground, staying below the radar horizon. And third, it can actually change its mind mid-flight. It can alter its path on the fly, which makes any kind of AI prediction totally useless.
So, the obvious question, right? What about all our fancy, multi-billion-dollar anti-missile systems? Surely, they can handle this.
The answer is just no. They're ineffective, and here's why. Think of systems like THAAD as a really good high-fly ball catcher in baseball. They're designed to track and intercept things way up high, ballistic missiles arcing through space. But Skyfall isn't playing that game. It's like a ground ball that's hugging the grass, constantly changing direction. It flies so low and its path is so unpredictable that these multi-billion-dollar systems just aren't designed to even see it, let alone stop it. It's engineered to exploit that very blind spot.
So, all of this adds up to a massive shift in global military strategy. We're not just talking about one more weapon in the arsenal, we're talking about a whole new category of threat.
I mean, think about it. This single weapon system could make decades of defensive spending and strategy almost obsolete. It's designed to slip past ground-based interceptors, and because it flies low and doesn't get super hot, it might even evade future space-based detection systems. It essentially creates brand new vulnerabilities, these huge blind spots in places that nations thought were totally secure.
That's why it's being called a strategic nightmare. It fundamentally changes the math. It rewrites the rules of deterrence, because if you can't reliably stop a weapon, the entire calculation of attack and defense just gets thrown out the window.
And it's not even just a one-trick pony.
With that kind of endurance, it could do more than just strike. It could potentially patrol an area for days on end, just gathering intelligence. Or it could act as a communications relay deep in enemy territory. It's an incredibly versatile and dangerous tool.
So, the final big question. Where does this weapon stand right now? Is this all still just an experiment, or is this thing about to become a reality?
Well, according to President Putin himself, the experimental phase is over. He announced that they've completed the last major trials, which is a pretty clear signal that the plan is to move this thing from the drawing board to active deployment.
So what that means is Skyfall is on its way to becoming an operational reality. We're told Russia's already working on the strategy, the actual doctrines for how you would use a weapon like this that has no precedent.
And that really leaves us with a heavy question, doesn't it? As these kinds of unstoppable superweapons move from science fiction to reality, the old Cold War logic of mutually assured destruction might not work the same way anymore. It forces everyone to ask, what does global security even look like in a world where weapons like this exist?